This is found in Acts 15, I think 28 and 29, where the apostles lay down the law and they say, for it has seemed good to the Holy Spirit to and to us to lay on you, that is, Gentile followers of Yeshua, no greater burden than these requirements, that you abstain from what has been sacrificed to idols, that's a food law, and from blood, another food law, and from what has been strangled, wow, a third food law, and from sexual immorality. And like you said, these are derived from the laws of the Ger Toshav. But weirdly, like really weirdly, because I don't think anyone really believes this, but really weirdly, some people have thrown that verse at us and have said, that's it. That's all there is. There's 4 things, no more things, just 4 things. I don't know, 2 things good, 4 things better. What I think the answer to that is obvious, because one of the laws that you mentioned that in Judaism applies to everyone, a murder, doesn't appear in this list of 4 things. But what would you say to someone who threw this verse at you, or these 2 verses at you, and said, hold on a minute, there's only 4 prohibitions for a Gentile follower of Yeshua. It says it right there in Acts 15.
Yeah, well, the the prohibition, I mean, I've heard people claim that prohibition of blood is a prohibition of murder. I don't buy that. But those 4 obligations really fail miserably as a standalone moral or legal code.
Yeah.
It seems pretty illogical that the Jewish community as a whole would be telling Gentiles, like, don't steal and don't blaspheme God, but then the apostles would just turn around and say, oh no, don't worry about theft and blasphemy. Just avoid eating strangled animals,
Yeah.
So
majoring on the minors for sure.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Feel free to completely disrespect your parents and covet everything your neighbor has. Those are good things, but blood, no.
Right. On top of that, so we have to at least apply Judaism's universal laws. And on top of that, these Gentiles they become disciples of Yeshua, and that means that they have responsibilities to uphold his teaching. And the New Testament is full of directives for Gentiles applying that teaching beyond those 4 things.
Right.
Yeah.
It's sort of like saying, well, the only commandment that exists for a follower of Yeshua is love, right? I give you a new command, love one another. Okay. And how do we define loving one another? What is appropriate? Does that mean that I have, polygamous relationships with, that's love, right? The Torah.
Even more love, yeah.
The Torah defined, not to mention that he also said, love God, love your neighbor, love your neighbor as yourself. There's a lot of things. It's a ridiculous premise, of course, but the Torah, the instructions of God as a whole inform us about what it means not only to love one another, but also to live and thrive in a community, to be functioning human beings in a society. Clearly it meant more than these 4 things. And there's a particular place that one from the nations. I want to also just quickly clarify, when we say Gentile, sometimes people assume some pejorative or negative association with it. Not at all. From the nations. There was a place that they could go to learn about more than just these 4 things, right?
Yeah. I think.
Do you know where that place was, Jacob? Do you know what it was called?
I think I do. Well, it depends what kind of Jew you are. It could be called temple or shul or the synagogue. And where else are you going to go? They hadn't built St. Peter's Basilica yet, right? There's no First Baptist Church of Antioch that you can go to.
Right.
And we get this idea. We get it from Acts 15:21, which says when James, I think, is talking here, he says, we're not going to make it difficult for the Gentiles, but he says, for Moses has been preached in every city from the earliest times and is read in the synagogues on every Sabbath. And the whole conversation is about Gentiles, people who are not Jewish. So in that context, we say, well, Okay, so these four rules eliminate some barriers to entry into a synagogue. Like you can't you there's certain you know there's a certain kind of person who's they're going to have a tough time integrating into synagogue life because there's a lot of problems with their lifestyle. Eating food sacrificed to idols and so forth. It's like, okay, you don't really belong here. However, once that problem has been solved, we think James is saying, look, there's a way to learn the kind of life that the God of Israel expects people to live, and there's a source for all of morality, not just like things specific to the identity and practice of the Jewish people rooted in their unique relationship with God, but stuff for everybody. And if you want to learn all of that stuff, we read through the Torah, all the time in the synagogue, and that's where you can go. Maybe you can read, maybe you can't. The Torah scroll costs $50,000, but you can go to the synagogue every Sabbath and you can hear it read out loud, and that's how you will learn. Within a Jewish framework, in a Jewish context, a Gentile can go and learn, well, what would the God of Israel ask from me? What are my responsibilities to the God of Israel?